blood sugar spikes, insulin resistance, weight gain. All terms which worry people, and I get why. Certain foods often get a bad rep for causing or being associated with these terms and have been linked with issues like obesity and diabetes. There's a lot of debate between the everyday person and professionals about whether they're good or bad for you. Some people say you should avoid them at all costs, while others suggest that they can actually be useful in certain situations. What am I talking about? High glycemic index foods, also known as high GI foods. In this podcast episode, I'll break down what these foods really are, why some people worry about them, and why others see them as helpful tools. By the end, you'll have a better idea of what high GI foods are and whether they fit into your daily life. Hey, and welcome to Vegetarian Health and Longevity, a podcast by Hurry the Food Up, where I cover topics that help vegetarians live longer in better health. I'm your host, James LeBague. I'm a registered sport and exercise nutritionist and advanced clinical practitioner in family medicine. It's my pleasure to interview expert guests, share my own experiences from working with patients and clients, and demystify some of the nutrition fluff that's out there to give you practical, take-home information that you can use to live a healthier life. So let's start by clarifying what I mean by the glycemic index, or GI for short. If you're not familiar with the term, then you're definitely not alone. It's a term that describes how much a particular food impacts your blood sugar level. Blood sugar, or blood glucose, is something that your body controls very carefully, keeping it within a specific range, usually between 4 and 7 millimoles per litre. When your blood sugar gets too high or too low, your body steps in to adjust it, using processes that can either bring it up or down. Glucose is a simple carbohydrate, and it's actually the main form of energy, along with fat, that our bodies use both in everyday activity and during exercise. So it makes sense that foods with a bigger effect on blood glucose tend to be those higher in carbohydrates. Foods rich in protein or fat have a lower glycemic impact, not because they contain little or no carbohydrate, but because the presence of other nutrients slows down the absorption of any carbohydrate present. This slower digestion rate reduces the glycemic index of these foods. The glycemic index itself is a way to rank foods based on their impact on blood sugar, using a scale of 0 to 100. Pure glucose is the standard, and it sits at the top of the scale at 100, as does white bread, which is very similar in its effect on blood sugar. In general, foods with easily accessible glucose, like white bread, rank higher on the GI scale because they require very little effort for your body to digest and absorb, meaning they can affect your blood sugar very quickly and noticeably. On the other end, foods with a lower GI take longer to digest and release glucose into the bloodstream more gradually, and this leads to a slower, more controlled rise in blood sugar. So why do high GI foods get such a bad reputation? There are a couple of main concerns people have. First, high GI foods can cause a rapid rise in blood sugar, meaning your body has to release a lot of insulin to bring it back down. Some people worry that if you eat high GI foods often, this constant demand for insulin could overwork your pancreas and potentially contribute to diabetes. The second concern is that these foods tend to lack nutrients like fiber, protein, healthy fats, and important vitamins and minerals. This means that eating too many high GI foods can lead to a diet that isn't balanced or nutritious, which isn't ideal for overall health. Now, to understand this topic properly, we need to dive into these points. First, it's important to understand that unless you have diabetes, the GI of a food alone isn't a measure of whether it's good or bad. The body's response to carbohydrate-heavy foods by releasing insulin is actually a normal and healthy process, and is not something most people need to worry about. There's very little evidence to show that high GI foods directly cause obesity, type 2 diabetes, or other major health issues, outside of perhaps some dental problems if you don't have good oral care. Whilst high GI foods can contribute to overeating because they're less filling, they don't directly cause weight gain or diabetes. The second concern about high GI foods lacking nutrients is largely true. These foods are often processed and high in simple carbs, meaning they don't usually offer much fiber or protein. But that doesn't necessarily make them bad for you, and context is way more important here. As long as your overall diet includes plenty of nutrient-rich, unprocessed foods, having some high GI foods here and there isn't likely to be an issue. In other words, it's about balance, something you might have heard as a theme throughout other podcast episodes. There are 3 times when high GI foods can be really useful, and that's before, during, and after a workout. Before we get into those, if you're interested in losing weight as a vegetarian, you should check out the Vegetarian Protein Fix, our flagship weight loss membership. We help vegetarians lose weight safely and healthily, all while being able to eat the food that they love. You can try out a 3 weeks meal plan, which is like those in the Vegetarian Protein Fix, and you can find that at hurrythefoodup.com/try. That's TRY. It's got a full week of meals scheduled, shopping lists, and step-by-step instructions. So head to hurrythefoodup.com/try and get started today. If you've ever had tummy issues during a workout, then you're not alone. Many people experience bloating, cramps, or even diarrhea during exercise, and this is often due to poor food choices. One way to reduce this risk is by choosing high GI foods before your workout. Since they're easier to digest, they're less likely to stick around in your stomach and cause discomfort. For example, let's say you normally have a handful of nuts before running. Nuts are a healthy snack choice, but they're high in fiber and fat, both of which slow down digestion, and that food is much more likely to still be in your GI tract, and here I mean gastrointestinal tract, when you run. If you had this as a snack before exercise, the chances are you'd get stomach upset, especially if you're running and/or doing something like high-intensity exercise. I chose this as an example, by the way, because I had a client who had been doing this, and making a swap resolved their issues. Switching to something like white toast and jam can make a big difference, as it digests faster and is less likely to cause tummy problems. So while it's a high GI snack, which could be seen as unhealthy, in the right context, it's fantastic. When you're in the middle of a workout, the last thing you want to wait for is your body to break down complex foods. This is where high GI foods shine, especially during longer or more intense exercise sessions. Sports drinks, energy gels, and other high GI snacks are great during workouts because they provide quick, accessible energy without sitting heavy in your digestive tract. And remember that whole insulin spike concern? During exercise, your body is incredibly efficient at using carbohydrate for energy and can absorb it directly. This means even if you're consuming quite a bit of sugar during exercise, it's being used for fuel rather than causing issues with blood sugar. Fun fact, I work with triathletes who regularly consume over 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour. In context, that's more than 6 tablespoons of sugar per hour when exercising. And it's the right thing to do. Kind of mind-blowing, right? Context is so important. After a tough workout, your body needs to replenish its glycogen stores, which is its stored form of glucose in your muscles and liver. High GI foods can be perfect for this because they quickly raise blood glucose, helping to speed up the resynthesis process. If you've had a particularly intense session, opting for high GI foods like white bread, pasta or rice, sports drinks, or fruit like bananas can be a super way to improve your recovery. However, I should say that you don't need to load up on high GI foods after every workout. For easy or short sessions, just have a balanced meal with a good source of protein and some carbs, ideally within 45 minutes of finishing. It's only after intense or really long sessions that you need to prioritize faster recovery, which is where high GI foods come into their own. So while high GI foods are often labeled as bad or unhealthy, it's really about how and when you use them. When used correctly, especially around exercise, they can be a great tool for energy and recovery. Like most things in nutrition, context is everything, and understanding the bigger picture is key. But even if you eat them occasionally and you aren't exercising, that's okay too. It's just more of an issue if they feature regularly in your diet in place of more nutritious food, or contribute to overeating and excess calories, leading to weight gain. So I hope this gave you some clarity on the whole high GI foods debate. If it did, then please give the podcast a quick review on whatever platform you're listening on. It helps the podcast to spread to more like-minded people like you, and it'll only take a moment. So thanks so much, and we'll speak soon.